Click links to join channel here over at SubScribestar. So this is kind of a weird movie, and you have to see it. I mean, it's weirder than all the other Marvel Disney movies because it does a lot of things you could only do once, but yet they all worked. And I hate to admit that a Disney movie came together because, lizard people and all that. So the short version is, yeah, it's safe to watch, but a friendly online source is good enough, if you know what I mean. Because supporting Disney is supporting Satan. Anyway, so both DC and Disney have had a history of bombs lately. And just off the top of my head, I was thinking of Wonder Woman 84 was when it all kind of kicked off. Because that was that 2019? That was the beginning of Wu Flu. And people were just starting to take it seriously. So they released in theaters and released at HBO. And it wouldn't matter because it was 2.5 hours and it was just a slog to get through from the opening scene. Like, oh, diversity, it's some Greek island and these chicks are in South America or whatever. It's like, oh, fabulous. You have that was just, peak cancerous. Anyway, so you had the Suicide Squad Part 2, almost said SS Part 2, Shazam Part 2, Black Adam, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, which was, I think, actually did make money, but not a whole lot of money. The Eternals, Marvels Part 2, and that other chick flick, that girl at the Milkers, and probably a few others I've missed. And, Miss Batman was so bad that they made the movie. They got all the way through it, and they go, this is so bad, it's going to hurt the reputation of DC if we release it, and it will hurt, like, future, IP value. So they didn't release it. I mean, that's a bizarre cell phone. Movies that bad just shouldn't get made. And then The Flash came on. The Flash wasn't bad, not at all. I mean, had the old Batman, 89 Batman in it. Michael Keaton did a great job. It's just that guy had too much baggage going into it. I guess he must have a phenomenal cocaine habit or something, or mental illness or something. The dude's out of his fucking mind. But it totally bombed. They'd put a lot of money into it. And there's probably a couple other that I'm missing, but a lot of these movies are like, oh yeah, I forgot that came out because I just never saw it. So then outside the superhero genre I guess I should have turned the phone sideways. I probably covered up those links. Thank God the Daily Storm is not at the bottom there. Then outside the superhero genre has been a bunch of animations, and Indiana Jones came out, which I think they spent like $300 million on, and it bombed. Why? Because diversity and the big gay agenda is just not selling. I mean, more people have got to say the things I'm saying, maybe in a little bit nicer phrasing, but all like just look at things and go, oh yeah, I'm really not into all that diversity gay stuff. It's just, I'm over it. And say it as if you don't know the consequences of saying something like this to an SJW. If you have people around, you're like, just seems kind of gay to me, and see what the response is. So the whole genre is winding down, but then along comes a fun film with two characters that have been polished for years, because a lot of Deadpool the character is just Ryan Reynolds, and he plays Ryan Reynolds really well. And this movie was fun, but it was also weird because the amount of fourth wall breaking can only be done to this extent once. And it wasn't really about anything. I mean, I guess there was a plot to it, but it still worked, but it can't be done again. It still feels like that the superhero thing, the whole genre, that kind of the resurgence kicked off in 2008 with Iron Man. I mean, there was superhero stuff before then, but it wasn't like, they did callbacks in this movie to Elektra and even Blade and some of those earlier movies, but like Daredevil with Ben Affleck and Elektra with what's her face back in the day, it's hard to say what was missing about those movies. Was it the budget, or there was just some spark about the movies that they didn't feel like they were internally taking the movie seriously. Like when Star Wars 77 came out, one of the reasons it was such a huge hit was it felt like they were taking the movie seriously, from the actors to the writing, as seriously as you can take something so fictional, and it totally connected with an audience. And that was kind of why, 2008 Iron Man, that was a big budget for risking it all on Robert Downey Jr. The thing is, it still worked, but it can't be done again. It feels like the whole genre is over, or it has to have a change. and Hollywood is riding the woke train right to Weimar. And I think people are going to see it and overrate the film. Like I was talking to one of my buddies who thought it was just so excellent, and he's kind of enthusiastic about things because everything else has been so bad for the past 5 years. Yeah, definitely 5 years due to Trump derangement syndrome and the Black Rock riots of 2020. So it's a solid movie, but I would not have seen it if somebody didn't play it on a live stream the other night. People show live streams on Odyssey and Rumble. They had access to a perfect copy of it, and it's kind of cool. It's different to watch it live and actually chat about it. And the movie was fun because the Wolverine character was played seriously and had some gravitas for a comic book character, and Deadpool was funny. But it also could have been a lot better if they were only willing to be a little bit less politically correct and just start, like, if you want to start turning Hollywood around, you're gonna have to take some risks, and they're not willing to do that yet. There's a scene where Deadpool is talking to the fat guy who's Tony Stark's assistant, or he's his driver in the earlier movies, and the dude is like 300 pounds of butter. And Deadpool is implying that he isn't a hero. He's not in the Avengers. He's Avenger adjacent or something. And his line is that he competes in parallel parking, which was an okay line for what he was trying to say. But the line would have been better if it was something about hot dog eating competitions to make fun of him being so fat. And, nowadays it's like, oh, you just can't say that. The thing is, you can. You can. Oh, but you're fat shaming people. Yeah. I mean, you can bring that back. Maybe it's time to like put a stick in this Weimar and say, yeah, maybe bring back a little bit of fat shaming. The dude's 300 pounds. He gained like 100 pounds of lard since doing singles in the 90s, which they joke about marching powder in the movie quite a bit. It's like it looked like he must have given it up because he just like blew himself up. And he did have a few solid lines in the movie about making fun of Disney, admitting that Marvel was in a low spot and it would have Hugh Jackman working until he was 90, because that's exactly what this movie is. You brought back Wolverine and Deadpool because Marvel was losing money. It's like courage to the credit to the writers for putting that in. It felt like it was a little bit of an iffy joke for Disney, but this movie is going to be a hit. And there was one bit before a fight scene that was a little bit out of touch. I mean, it's an imperfect movie. It's just that everything around it is so bad. You're going to watch it and you think, oh yeah, this is absolutely the track they need to get on. And yeah, it's the track they need to get on. So there's no way they'll follow this up, because that would be the logical thing to do, and that's just not what Disney's about. So there was a fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine, and they're in the purgatory place, which was great. It was like a Mad Max setting. The guy was making fun of Furiosa, that movie. And it's like that worked really well. And he talks to the camera and he tells the fanboys to get ready to self-enjoy, so to speak, because they're going to watch comic book characters do CGI in a green room. And actually, it looked pretty realistic. It looked pretty good. But that is not and was never the state of people who watch these movies, because nobody obviously is that big a fan, even hyperbolically. It didn't make sense, and it especially didn't make sense when you consider the past 5 years at Disney and DC, because they've had so many movies that have either bombed or barely made money or been so slow to make money. The superhero genre itself, and then you consider all the animations they did. And, oh God, what was a Little Mermaid? I think just passed over into profitability. That pirate movie. It's like an English story, and the guy's hand gets eaten by a crocodile, and it's like the TikTok. What's the name of this pirate? I forget the name. But Robin Williams was in one of the remakes. Son of a bitch. And so they like race swapped all the characters, and everyone's like black and Indian now, and some old English story that's set back 200 years ago. It's really stupid. And I actually watched some of that, and it was just painfully stupid to watch. So it didn't make sense to say that, oh, they're going to get so excited over these two comic book characters fighting. It's like that energy, that energy obviously never exists. It's a kind of a cringy thing to say. But that it feels like, whoa, have you been paying attention to how many movies have been losing money from Marvel? It like you want to dial back those expectations. Anyway, so the people who are watching these movies now are not excited to watch them. It's more like if they're in the mood that day and they can find someone to go with them, maybe they'll see it, or maybe they'll wait for Disney Plus or whatever, and then next thing you know, they forgot about it. That's the energy now with modern Disney. And like I said, if they keep going down this direction, they could turn Marvel around. All they have to do is like you have this guy Ryan. And the other guy, Hugh Jackman, but you also have the Guardians of the Galaxy guy. Like, you have characters, enough movies have been made that people know what characters they like. Okay, so you take them and you just start putting them in movies together. I don't know who owns the rights to Spider-Man and Venom and all that, but you know what I'm saying? It's like you're really kind of behind the eight ball here. It's like just take the best of the best and start throwing it out there and make fun movies. And it's like, oh, what a perfectly logical, I mean, really kind of a simple plan. It's like sell the audience what they're willing to pay for. Yeah, it's kind of 101 stuff. But when they're not doing 101 stuff, you have to give them 101 advice. And it sounds so stupid to say it, but it's like just give the audience what they'll pay for. Not what they say they want, not what the SJW say they want, but what they will actually go to the theater for and hand over $16. Disney is not what it used to be, and Hollywood in general is on the decline. And the audience jerking it to two men is pretty gay. Maybe if Gardner Baum was wrestling around, I don't know, she's got to be 50, and she was in amazing shape for her role in the theater. Then there's a weird part where Deadpool said that he was Marvel Jesus, and he said it 4 times, and it felt odd because it also feels like we're living right now in biblical times, and it didn't exactly feel disrespectful. Because honestly, the more people focus on whatever is your higher power, the God or the gods, it's probably going to come in handy to start reconnecting with religion, especially if there's some crusading army of avenging angels type of stuff in the future. I'm just saying that it could be on the horizon. You never know. The older I get, the more schizo signs and symbols I look for, and I just kind of go down those rabbit holes. And they had Blade with, I guess I could have got these pictures in order. It would have been cool. They had Blade with Wesley Snipes, who was excellent and should have been doing, after he got out of prison, he should have been doing Blade 4, 5, and 6 and just kept, running that pony. But I guess Marvel has straight black men on their way out, which has gotta be weird if you're a black guy and you suddenly realize you're not near the top of the food chain anymore. Like you've been pushed several. There's a religion on top of you, and there's females in general on top of you. Then there's POC females on top of you. And like if you're a straight male, suddenly you're down. It's like, but I'm black. I should be at the top. It's like, not according to Disney, not as much anymore. Anyway, so they want to replace him with a female pox wax vagina enjoyer. Let me get an image. This was actually they had really solid chemistry. They want to replace him with some kind of pox wax type of chick, but no offense, females, especially non-white ones, are usually box office kryptonite. People are really sick of feminist diversity. Let me find his picture. Yeah, he had a few cool scenes in there. It's good to see him back in action, and that was one of the problems in the movie. Is that is there some at the end, kind of the end of the movie? There's some obese affirmative action hire. I almost thought it was that Ghostbusters lady at first, or that chick from DC. She was in the original. I guess she's in all the DC movies. I forget her name. Who was in charge of some important stuff? It's like big brain, well organized stuff. But I mean, come on, let's be honest here. It really should have been a white male, because they're usually the best at that sort of thing. I mean, when you're looking at people at the top of an organizing food chain, it's gonna, I mean, I'm just saying the obvious here. And like I said, no offense. Diversity hires, they take you out of the movie. It was what I'm trying to say, because it looks like an obvious, diversity hire. And then there was some bald-headed chick who had some joke about jerking off while she was killing people, which actually was pretty funny. And, I mean, spoiler alerts and all that. But it doesn't really matter because it's a movie about nothing. It only works because of Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. And the best thing they could do would be to go ahead and make a sequel, but they won't. I don't know how you'd make a sequel, but the concept of simple, fun films. Let me get the image. Is with in-demand characters. That's what Hollywood in general should be all about. But that's not what they're into. And instead of killing off characters, they should have had Electra, Blade, and the rest form a new team and go ahead and do their thing. It felt like they got away from making fun movies, but this movie slipped through the cracks somehow. They also had Henry Cavill in it, and they should just put him in the next Marvel movie. But of course, they're not going to because that's what the audience wants. Hollywood is here to make the prominent roles black, gay, trans, furry, otherkin with as much race mixing and designer catamite babies as possible. So you've got Snipes, Henry Cavill, Gardner, and a few others who are sitting around. Chris Evans as well as the Flame guy. They swapped out for Robbie Robot or something in the cartoons because they didn't want kids lighting themselves on fire. Fair enough. You got them sitting around doing it and just gardening or whatever. Why don't you just make a movie with them? Because that's exactly what the audience is interested in. Just fun, simple movies. And most of the time, you just don't get that. And this movie came through. It came through the cracks. This movie's a one-off. I don't think you're going to get more movies that they just try to give the audience a good 90 minutes. And you'll kind of understand when you see it and you realize that it can only be done once and it's not going to save Disney. But I mean, if you have a character like Deadpool, which can do a lot of fourth wall meta type of stuff, you can bring characters back all you want. I don't even think you have to bother explaining it if you just want to send them off on some mission. I mean, maybe you could make it work for another movie. You might as well try because the stuff you've been doing with the, Madam Web and the Marvels and all that other kind of girl power stuff is like, that's a hard no from the audience. You put these two characters in the movie, and this guy, he said he was ready to retire because he was tired of getting in shape for the role, which is, looks like a bit of growth hormone and just a diet, insane levels of dieting. But he's what the audience wants. So it's like, just, give him what he wants. Anyway, so some soy boy at IGN is whining about the movies, now referencing in the movies like other movies too much. Let me get to him. And I guess he sort of has a point, but he expects too much of movies. Hollywood is 99% crap. It's just not as good as you think. And I mean, you can go back and look at things that you thought were good, and you'll have a different perspective on it now. A superhero movie is taken from the comic books, which are taken from Greek, Roman, and Norse mythology. The movies are developmentally disabled, no offense, because they're mostly made by these globalist parasitical lizard people. Even when they make a movie that people like, that's not exactly their intention. I mean, I'd love to. You can't talk about this kind of stuff on YouTube, like the hidden intention behind movies. It's fascinating. There's so many movies you can go back and watch now after being honk-pilled. You can see the propaganda, like Blazing Saddles, Pulp Fiction, Fight Club, Revenge of the Nerds. The woke was always there. You were just a kid, or you didn't take the red pill yet, and you didn't notice it. You might have known subconsciously something was off. It's rare when something like Lord of the Rings makes it into a film and they leave it alone, where they interview Jackson and they go, yeah, we just tried to honor the artist's original vision. It's like, oh yeah, more movies should try to do that. It was a hit, but then they made The Hobbit a few years later, and unfortunately he had to come in and finish the film when the first guy had to leave the film, and it was not very good because they started to attach woke elements to The Hobbit. Then years later, they put some black chick in the village of all English people or something. That's, it's a fantasy village, but it's like, that's not Tolkien's intent. Then they had a interspecies erotica with an elf and I don't know, some other character. And someone in the comments last time said there was something like that. He said in the Silmarillion or some after books or something. I don't remember. Then years later, they did Rings of Power, which is unwatchable, and they're gearing up they did the first season on Amazon. They spent like, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars, just a ridiculous amount of money on it, and it's just going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because it's effing unwatchable. But I mean, I'll watch the second season when it comes up. They're gearing out to doing it. They're talking about, we're gonna have like more gay characters. Like, really? Because, Tolkien, he came back from World War I, so that was kind of his small-town English setting. I mean, the village he was in when he was writing this, probably didn't even have, I might not even have electricity or indoor plumbing yet. And it's like, it's a totally different lifestyle. And you're talking about things that just were outside his universe with the interracial or interspecies. I mean, just, it's true fucking bizarre, but it's like they're globalists. Like they have to destroy everything they touch. Evil can't create. Um, anyway, so this pussy at that IGN actually has a point that movies have entered the kind of the self-aware plastic fuck doll stage, but it doesn't matter. It's, and my buddy calls them bundles of sticks in spandex, pushing whatever globalist propaganda is popular that day. And the disconnect between these idiots and the audience is pretty big. If you look at the review scores, you know, the audience will give something one score, and oftentimes the professional, in quotes, reviewers will be, I did give it a different score because they're scoring for different things. They're scoring for woke elements, like the people Mary Sue believe in, where the reviewers will like Furiosa, Marvel's Madam Web type of movies, or Charlie's Angels, or I don't even know if they like that one, or the Terminator. Just movies, long history of these movies that are losing money, bombing because there's just some kind of feminist diversity type of stuff. And it's like, oh, you think we could make a short list on what not to do in Hollywood so we don't lose any more money? Feminism, diversity. Oh, it's a pretty short list. Just kind of avoid that. Yeah. Don't make people Mary Sue's, like diversity hires, that kind of stuff. Don't, if you have a POC character in the movie, don't make them perfect. Make them as flawed as all the other characters. But we'll get canceled on social media. You're Disney. You can't get canceled on social media. You control social media. Nobody's, if you went in a certain direction, other companies would follow, but Disney's not going to go in that direction. They are committed to this bit. So it's the disconnect is that the professional reviewers are like virtue signaling, and the audience just wants some kind of entertainment, maybe a good story, maybe flash, but you know, the combination of everything together of a little bit of escapism and fun. Can we get that? No, not usually. And this movie slips through the cracks. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.